Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and it's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Welcome, everyone, to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, the podcast for Packer fans saying, so you're saying there's a chance. I am your co-host, Charles, and with me, as always, is Marcus. Marcus, how are you?
Doing well, Charles, yourself?
I'm doing great. Marcus, you and I talked about last episode, or a couple episodes ago, not only hitting the panic button, but smashing it into oblivion. And I think we're right in hitting that panic button, but there are a lot of websites out there that are giving the Packers north of a 60% chance of making the playoffs. Would you believe that? Yeah, like the Onion. I think
no, I don't believe that. 60%? That seems ridiculous, but
538 is one of them, I believe. But I think that's terribly wrong. But the window of us getting to the playoffs is not impossible. I think the hardest thing that we need to do to get that, for this scenario to play out, is for us to win out. And I think of all the things to happen that I'll lay out here in a moment, that's probably going to be your hardest one, right? I mean, we've seen how much have we talked about not seeing consistency in this team. I don't know if you had to make a bet right now. Do you think we can win out the rest of these games?
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, and if we want to have any chance of making the playoffs, then we have to do that. The schedule, over the last couple of weeks, it's not an easy Final Four games for the Packers. I mean, we've got
3 of 4 at home.
Yeah, well, 3 of 4 at home, but we've got the Rams coming up, which, on paper is the easiest game of this final stretch. But we've got the Vikings, the Lions, and the Dolphins. Lions are hot. They've won like 5 of their last 6, I think. Vikings, they're still a 10-win team, and it's a division game. That could be something that they want to play for at that point. Week 17, they may have the number 1 seed on the line or the number 2 seed on the line. So we're
probably
get
the number
best shot.
Yeah, probably the number 2 seed. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
They're going to have something to play for.
Exactly. And then this last week, week 18 against the Lions, I mean, that could be both of us fighting for that final playoff spot. That's not out of the realm of possibility either. So, it's certainly a daunting task, but the Packers have a small opportunity to make the playoffs, but winning out is kind of the number one thing. And then we're going to need to get some help for sure, a ton of help actually.
And a ton of help again seems doable. And it all starts tonight. The Seahawks are playing the Niners on Thursday Night Football, and we need the Seahawks to lose 2 of the next 4 games. And that sounds daunting, but I mean that actually I think seems very reasonable. Seahawks have the Niners tonight, the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Rams. If I were a betting man, I would hope the Niners can take care of business, even though they're on their 3rd quarterback on the year. Then you would think that the Chiefs could beat the Seahawks. And the other thing we need to happen, we need one of these 2 things to happen. We need the Giants to lose 3 of 4, or the Washington Commanders to lose 3 of 4. Again, sounds crazy, sounds like a long shot until you realize that they're playing each other. So as long as they don't tie each other again, that's a loss for one of the teams. And then the Giants have the Vikings, the Colts, and the Eagles, which the Vikings and the Eagles, you just said, the Vikings, 10-win team, Eagles, best team in football right now. And then Washington has the Niners, Browns, and Cowboys. I think if you had to pick right now, I think I'm picking the Giants losing 3 of 4. So I think I'm going to root for the Commanders this weekend. Is that are we on the same page there?
Yeah, for sure. And then right now, as it stands, the Commanders are up 1 spot in the playoff picture over the Giants. So from that perspective, it might be a little bit simpler for them to continue the fall down from where they're at. And I think they're probably more likely to lose those, what did you say, 3 of 4?
3 of 4.
3 of 4. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll be rooting for the Commanders this week. It's so frustrating because if the Packers had just won one of those games, this could be a completely different scenario. They could maybe win out and be in the playoffs at the 7th seed, but it is what it is.
And that's what I broke down in my solo episode a while ago. I mean, that we're going to look at that Titans game and that Lions game, I think, at the end of this year and just go, oh, could have been. But
Right.
You're right. It is what it is. We are where we are, and we have a very winnable game on Monday Night Football. The Rams, by the way, had asked the NFL to travel to London because they knew the Rams had to play at home, the Rams had to play quote unquote in Green Bay, a home game for Green Bay, and the Rams had requested that game had been in London, and the NFL denied that and instead put them on Monday Night Football in 10-degree weather in Green Bay in December. So I thought that was pretty funny. The Rams were trying to get the easy break, but nope, they're coming to Lambeau. It's going to be cold, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think it's going to be, like you said, about 10 degrees at kickoff. I mean, this on paper should be a simple win for the Packers. I mean, the Rams have a lot of their key players are out. Matthew Stafford obviously out probably for the year. No for sure on that, but they signed Baker Mayfield and he came in and won them a game against the Raiders last week. Cooper Kupp's been out for several weeks at this point, out for the season. Aaron Donald has been out for a couple weeks, likely won't play in this game, but he's someone to keep an eye on. And again, doubtful that he'll play, but if he does play, he can certainly wreck a game when he has the opportunity. Although the Packers have been pretty good against him in the last couple of meetings, they've been able to hold Aaron Donald in check. Likely won't be an issue this coming Monday. But like we just said, Baker Mayfield, a new addition to the LA Rams, and he's certainly not not foreign for him to play in cold weather games. And I think the cold weather is probably going to be, I guess factor into how they want to play offense and with their current personnel anyways. So they're not going to be airing it out to a guy like Cooper Kupp. They're going to have to kind of start on the ground first and, kind of have Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson carry the offense through, if they want to win this game.
I don't think the weather has as big of an impact in general as we used to think. I mean, look at our number one seeds the last couple of years.
True.
But in particular, this game, I think it has even less of an impact because of Baker Mayfield and his performance last week. I don't think you can understate how awesome that was. I mean, Baker went 98 yards. That game-winning drive was a 98-yard game-winning drive with him having less than 2 days of practice. Didn't even know the playbook. So if it is sloppy out there, I think that actually, I won't say favors, but it would favor a team that's not as reliant as a very clean. It's not the team isn't needing to rely on a very clean offense as is, right? He's kind of ad-libbing it feels like, as he's going. That's what that last drive felt like. So I feel like that kind of backyard football is their kind of their strategy, if you will. Not their strategy, but you know what I mean? They're gonna have a simple playbook that Baker is gonna kind of have the green light and say, let's change things up. And I think with kind of a sloppier game, that it won't work in their favor necessarily, but it won't be as detrimental to them that it's colder out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And, that may be a little bit more of a difficult task for our defense, just to face kind of an unpredictable offense at this point. You're not really sure what you're going to get. You only have one game of film, and it's not like the offense was outstanding in that game either. I mean, yeah, that game-winning drive was pretty incredible. That was kind of fun to watch. But, they won, the Rams did, with only 282 yards of total offense. And they're already, almost last in the league with 308 yards per game, and they won with fewer yards than that, which is kind of funny. And then they only scored 17 points. So I gotta think that in this game the Packers are going to be able to put more than 17 up and be able to hold the Rams to certainly to under 20.
And I think this is a game that, and we're not picking our players yet, but I'm going to basically say mine. But in this type of game, this is where the running game is really going to come through. And this is the game, if you remember a couple of years ago against the Titans, where A.J. Dillon just really tired those defenders out on those cold days. And I think that's something we're going to have to see from both backs, but specifically A.J. Dillon having himself a big day and kind of popping those defenders in the mouth. Because if those defenders are down by a score or two, and we're kind of running that clock out with Dillon kind of initiating contact, I think that's going to be when we see the white flag from the Rams. So big game from our running backs is what we need.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you bring up the running backs because, I mean, that, this Rams defense is, as I would say by all accounts, pretty mediocre. I mean, they're okay and in a couple of categories, but they're fifth in the league in rushing yards against. So they're only allowing 101 rushing yards per game. So, I think to your point, if our running backs can have a big day, that's going to go such a long way in helping this offense open up. But I think we're going to probably be relying a little bit more on the passing game. And I'm hopeful that Romeo Doubs is going to come back this week and be able to play alongside Christian Watson. The Rams obviously have a shutdown corner in Jalen Ramsey, who I think will probably be matched up a lot of the day against Christian Watson based on what he's been able to do these last 4 weeks. And I think if Romeo Doubs can play, that's going to open up that second wide receiver to do some damage.
Yeah, I agree. Have we seen any news on Romeo at all? Has he been participating in practice? If you don't have it pulled up, that's fine.
He's been participating in practice. He thought he may have been able to start before the bye week, but they thought better safe than sorry. He's been able to run full speed, plant on his ankle. So, barring some major setback, I think we're going to see him on Monday night.
Yeah, I wonder if field conditions will be a determining factor for him or for David Bakhtiari if they don't feel confident in the turf. Do you think that changes any decisions, or do you think since it's kind of went out time, it's put your best players on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably go big or go home at this point. And I think the Lambeau's got a great field, and I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. If this game were like in Chicago, for example, that might be a different story. But Bakhtiari, if I recall correctly, it wasn't a knee issue. It was an appendectomy, right? So he went out for emergency surgery, and I can't imagine he's going to be back this week, especially with the way the offensive line played. Last week or 2 weeks ago.
I'm not going to lie, I completely missed that on David.
Yeah, it wasn't a knee issue. He had emergency appendectomy, and so wasn't a knee setback. It was kind of just this freak thing that happened, and they took care of it. And he's unlikely for him to play, I would guess.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, how about this offense? I mean, we talked about the offense a little bit. Talk about the defense. How about our defense? I mean, are you concerned? I mean, Cam Akers is a running back that at least has name recognition, but I mean, he's kind of been mediocre this year. I mean, are you concerned about this offense, this Baker Mayfield-led offense, or do you think someone defensively has to have himself day?
I was gonna say I'm more concerned about our defense than I'm concerned about their offense. I mean, we've let mediocre running teams put up hundreds of yards of offense on the ground against us. So it's not that Cam Akers is an all-pro. It's that we make opposing running backs look like they're all pros, and I think we need to make sure we're helping them out.
And opposing quarterbacks look like our all-pro running backs.
Yep, exactly.
Baker isn't one to just run. I mean, I know he's a tough guy. I mean, I've seen him headbutt enough guys without his helmet on, with the other dude's helmet on. But is he really a running threat? I mean, no need for a spy with Baker, right?
I don't think so, but I mean, he's certainly a guy who has and can make plays with his legs. So if he has an opportunity, he's kind of that duck and run type of quarterback. I mean, he will just put his head down and go get that first down or try to get that touchdown, when they're in the red zone. So again, I don't think we're going to spy Baker Mayfield, but he's certainly a quarterback that's got the capability to have a couple of big plays with his legs for sure.
Yeah, I think this is a game again where, and I'll say it again with the running backs, if we can run the ball, oh my God, just copy and paste that sentence and insert it in every podcast we've done. but in particular, in a sloppy game, if A.J. Dillon can run the ball and just really tire these guys out, I mean, this should be a very simple game that we can control. Again, we need to win the turnover battle. We can't have one of our two guys drop the ball and put that on the ground. I'm hoping, honestly, for a very boring game that we hopefully win by a touchdown or two. Do you want to get into predictions?
Yeah, why don't we? We already talked about our players for the game. So, why don't you give us the over-under and the point spread here? And
okay, I looked it up just before this recording, and I was surprised. The Packers are 7-point favorites in this game. They're at home, so that usually gives you 3, but still, 2 struggling-ish teams. I thought it'd be a closer spread. But 7-point favorites, and the over-under is 39.5 points. I haven't decided exactly what the score is going to be yet, but again, just given the temperature, I'm going to say it's going to go under. I don't know why, but I just feel like it's going to be sloppier. Every game we watched so far, the Packers has been a little bit sloppy. So I'm going to have the Packers winning. I think I'm not going to pick the Packers making the playoffs quite yet. But I think with a win here and a couple key losses this week, we're going to have hope going into next week's games. So I'm going to have the Packers winning 21-10.
Okay, I like it. I've got the total going quite a bit over the prediction, but I think that, to your point earlier, the weather's not going to be a huge factor. The field should be dry. Yeah, it's going to be cold, but it's not going to be rainy or snowy or anything. I've got the Packers kind of, I won't say blowing out because, when have we done that? But I've got the Packers winning 31-20.
I like it. Some positivity here. We're not the negative folks, but big game tonight.
Maybe I'm leaning back toward Homer status. I don't know, but given the points we've scored the last 4 or 5 weeks,
What's fun about this is we're the Monday night game, and tonight is, like I said, the Niners Seahawks. So if that game goes in our direction, and there's at least a winner or a loser, and not a tie between the Commanders and the Giants, then technically everything is kind of gone in our favor. So we could be going into our game on Monday night with everything kind of already done for this week, and excited to say, all right, let's just get this easy win. And if we're sitting there where now we just have to win out, obviously one less game, and, the Seahawks only have to lose one more game, and the Giants or Commanders only have to lose 2 more games. I mean, all of a sudden now we're getting excited. And if you would have told me that even 2 weeks ago, I would have said you're full of it. So it's funny how football kind of works out. Some people call it rigged. Some people just say it's based on on how they do the schedule and how many teams get into the playoffs. But it's just so cool that even as bad as this year is, we're still here in the middle of December talking about a potential playoff berth.
Yeah. And I think at this point, that's all you can really hope for, with a team that's already lost 8 games. So one thing I wanted to note about the playoff picture is that, if the Packers win, and even if we get every optimal outcome this week, I don't think anything in the standings is going to change, because we still won't have as many wins as the Seahawks or the Giants or the Commanders.
Right.
They'll have more wins than we do, and the Lions will still hold the tiebreaker, so we'll have the same record, but they beat us once, and we haven't played them a second time yet. So the needle won't move on paper this week, but we will be, one step closer to that possibility. So, let's stay positive as long as it makes sense, and keep cheering for the Packers for sure.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go Niners. Come on, and let's go Pack. I think that does it for us today. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Green and Golden Boys, a Packer podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast service. And as always, Marcus, go Pack, go.
Pack, go.